Morning. I know you can't see me yet, but I'm here. I'm live. Going to be talking to Kriss Saunders in a second. I'm just waiting until I know we're actually live and that LinkedIn can see us before I do anything else. So if you are watching this, say hello. Tell you what, I'm going to put myself on screen. Rather than the graphic, and I'll talk for a second. I always wait until, I know I'm looking down, I always wait until LinkedIn tells me that we're live, and LinkedIn has told me that we're live there, before I actually start talking to people, because I'm never sure whether you're actually watching yet. Any second now, I'm going to be live with Kriss Saunders of ARCA Adventure, and he is the authority on travel to Sri Lanka, for example, and he's just about to launch ARCA Origins, which we'll talk about. I'm just going to do a couple of things down on the screen. If you're watching us, please do say hello in the comments. If you've got any questions about travel or the business of travel, because that's what Kriss knows a ton about, then pop that in the comments as well and we'll answer them. I'm just doing a couple of things down here. I am still here with you, but there's just a couple of things I need to do whilst I'm making this work. For example, making sure that I tag Kriss. Morning, Gordon. The wonderful Gordon Frew's watching us, and I've had a bit going on. I know I've got a message from you, Gordon, which I haven't replied to yet, but I haven't forgotten you, mate. I will get round to replying to that today. It's been a frantic few days, but thanks for joining us, Gordon. Tell you what, you've reminded me, Gordon, what I haven't done yet, I haven't put the LinkedIn comments on, so let's put the LinkedIn comments so that we can do that with them, because I always find that quite fun. So, morning, Gordon. I'm going to bring Kriss on. Talking to Kriss, sort of morning, Sharon. I'll put you up on screen as well, like that. Thank you very much. Talking to Kriss Saunders, who is the founder of ARCA Adventure, the founder of ARCA Origins, and absolute expert and authority on travel to Sri Lanka as well as other places, and live and direct from Herefordshire. Morning, Kriss.
Good morning. Really pleased to be here and looking forward to our chat.
I think so. I mean, you and me talk so much about stuff, and I always want these conversations to be, more a conversation between two mates rather than a broadcast. Although I find I always go into a bit of Alan Partridge mode as soon as I press the live button, but that's my problem, not yours. Tell us a little bit about exactly what it is that you do.
So yeah, we're an adventure travel specialist. We focus on kind of a number of different either activities, destinations, and what we're passionate about is finding the best things about those destinations, like different niches, the kind of things that are really exciting, but people might not really consider when they're first thinking of a holiday or a destination. And we bring that to the forefront of their minds and say, look, why don't you try this? Why don't you try something different? And we're really passionate and focused about really delivering something completely different. So when somebody comes back from one of our adventures, they're a lot more like, whoa, did you do this when you went there? Did you know you could do this? And then other people are like, oh, almost disappointed that they didn't go on to do the same itinerary on their holidays. And that's what we're really passionate about.
So is that? I mean, I know you come from a travel background, but is that why the business is called Arc Adventure rather than Arc Travel? Because you're selling adventures rather than sort of just travel, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. The interesting thing, the history of why Arc Adventure actually started is due to marine conservation. So ARC is an acronym for Attainable Reef Conservation, which nobody would know unless I told you. And actually, the thing we're really passionate about is really providing really cool conservation and doing what we can to help the planet. And we launched a business to do a lot of stuff when it comes to diving holidays. And the thing with divers is they like a lot of other adventures. So actually, we thought we're not just passionate about diving, we're passionate about everything that a destination can offer, from even the culinary delicacies, the culture. There's so much everywhere has to offer. a lot of people travel, they visit somewhere and they leave, and they don't necessarily realize what they've missed out on. And we want to make sure that when people go on these trips of a lifetime, because for most people, some of these, short haul people might go to the same destination because they go time and time again. They really like it. They know what they're getting. But when you go on a long haul, a more expensive holiday, of course, it's a once in a lifetime trip, and chances are you're not going to go there again. So what you don't want to do is come back and think, oh, I really missed out on something. But then at the same time, that entices you to go back. So that's what we really want to try and get that difference out of the destination, a combination of getting people really getting not like involved in the culture, getting a taste of that and getting a feel of it, rather than being a tourist abroad, as it were, like a lot of people do, and they're comfortable with that.
I think that's definitely going to be my thing, because we do short haul stuff, and we really enjoy that. As you might have spotted, Sharon and I do quite a lot of city breaks by choice in Europe. But when we do go to Sri Lanka and then Sydney and Melbourne next year, which is still the plan, we'll want to see more than just getting off the plane and seeing the inside of a corporate hotel. I mean, that's my business life is often exactly that: turning up somewhere and then you're at the inside of a Hilton hotel. So every city eventually pretty much looks the same in the business life. So when we do the big trip next year, that's our plan, really, to actually see local culture and taste local culture. You've got my mouth watering thinking about sort of tasting different food around the world as well. And is there, I mean, coming out of what has been, I think, a challenging time for the travel industry, to say the least, is there still an appetite for that? No pun intended. An appetite for adventure and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's been the whole travel industry, and anybody listening that works in the travel industry will know it's been a really tough time. There's a range of different challenges that we've all had to deal with. Some of that, is around bookings that were made and then people fighting for refunds, and the travel industry are the ones that got it in the neck when ultimately you think a massive worldwide industry that's worth, you think the airline industry is worth millions, all of this just suddenly comes to a grinding halt. Millions of bookings around the world, and obviously as a customer, you're almost like you're only worried about your booking. But from a company point of view, and from all the logistical aspects, suddenly you've got companies that had to refund ultimately thousands of bookings each company. Their staff are working from home, all of these logistics suddenly disappeared, and then everyone's nervous in that time, the pandemic. So what we did, obviously, when travel's not there, we had to think, well, what could we do to be ready for when travel opens up again? And what we have actually found is the initial, when people could travel, when everything started to open back up, everybody wanted to be in their comfort zone and so like Europe destinations did really well, obviously with a number of restrictions. Some places still do have some entry requirements within Europe, and people wanted to dip their toe in and just get away because cabin fever, I'm sure, set in for a lot of people. But actually, a lot of people, where they've saved money in this time, there's people, being on furlough, people have kind of made other little side hobbies and things and made a bit of money. And actually, people are saving up and thinking, actually, I really want to go on the trip of a lifetime. So we found that people weren't immediately booking with us, because we don't, not specialists in like quick bucket and spade holidays. They've come to us saying, actually, we want to plan a dream trip. And it's like, You know, we're doing bookings to Uganda. Obviously, Sri Lanka's a really popular one, and going further afield, but really wanting an experience, not just to go away and just quickly. It's like they've had time to stop, think, and actually see all these, have a look at all these places, and think, where do I want to go? What would be our dream holiday? And actually, that's kind of where the shift in travel has gone. People are really thinking about a dream once in a lifetime holiday now, not just bucket and spade.
Quite like buckets and spades. So we went to the English seaside a
Oh,
week or so
really?
ago. I'm gonna. Sharon said something a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to bring that back up on screen. If anyone else has got any questions about travel or the business of travel or networking or anything at all, pop them in the comments below, and we'll bring it up on screen and answer them live. But Sharon does do a ton of research about anywhere that we go, and where are the best places to go, where are the best places to go that no one else goes, and so on. And I think she's made the point, which is sort of a question, I guess, that you would do all of that for me, because Sharon, on the one hand, loves doing it and finds all of that exhausting, but you would do that research for a client if we were going somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally get how exhausting it is to look at these things. There's the excitement of doing it, but then also, like you said, after a while, on the figure is, I can't remember what the up-to-date figure is, but on average, when people look for a holiday, they go on over 30 different websites. So that's the average. So some people will probably go on hundreds. Some will just look at, some people, like you said, will just go straight over to me and say, look, tell us, this is where we want to go. This is what we want to do. Suggest a few like activities or experiences, and go ahead and put that together, make some suggestions, and we'll come back with what we like. And that is literally what we do. We make suggestions depending, like Iceland, there's so many different things and different arrangements of trips of how you can do things in Iceland, that actually you want to know, is that which one is the best, and how are you going to do, what's going to get them, how are you going to get the most out of doing each of these experiences, not just I want to do that, click book, and actually you find that there's a much better way of doing these things as well.
If you've just joined us, I'm talking to Kriss Saunders. I'm just going to pop this up on screen. If you're watching us and you're not already following Kriss, then do go and connect with him on LinkedIn. As well as being an expert on travel and the business of travel, Kriss networks a lot as well, so he knows a ton of people in different businesses around the country. What have I put up? Put the wrong thing up on screen. There you go. That's where you should follow Kriss. Managing to confuse myself this morning. That's where you should be following him. If you were just watching that, you were watching us live. I guess that was like one of those repeating mirror things. But there we go. If you're not following Kriss already, that's where to find him. I'm going to bring us back up on screen now. So, ARCA Adventure, you help people find the adventures. And by the way, I want to go to Iceland. That's on my bucket list. So we need to add that to our conversation, Kriss. Iceland
Absolutely.
is somewhere where I really want to go. Quite fancy doing the Secret Solstice Festival as well in the middle of the year. Tell us a little bit about ARCA Origins then, because that's something that you and I have talked about a little bit recently. But yeah, give people an idea of what you're up to.
So yeah, ARCA Origins is something that this is where I said in the pandemic, you're either sitting still waiting for things to kind of open up again, or you're moving forward. And this is what we have spent the last 2 years working on. There's a lot of what is going to be coming is a brand new website with a range of incredible itineraries, different adventures that suit different people, different styles, whether you're interested in culinary, photography, different activities, diving, polar regions. Like, we've kind of taken all of the best adventures that we feel like you can experience in different corners of the world. And ARCA Origins, the term origin is all about actually getting to know that destination, because you're in the, you can only do those experiences the best in the place that you are. And that's where the name came from. And the background and why this has taken a long time to put together is the way, as a tour operator, we work. We have to form a lot of trusting partnerships in order to put all of these adventures together, and we're asking for things that are a bit more out of the ordinary than what your standard, other travel operators that you would go to might offer, and we've basically worked from scratch, and everything that will be live when that finally goes in the next couple of weeks, you will see all of that come to life. And actually you'll see bookings that you can make, and it's a live booking site as well, so you're able to go on, book your holidays, look at all the different things, and also get in touch with us if you want to change things. That's the beauty of it. We've put it together, all these adventures, with what we think are really kind of the most in-depth, incredible experiences you can get from these destinations around the world. But ultimately, you might want to add something, take something away, and this is what we're there for. This site is about giving you ideas. If you love what you're seeing, get on, book it. We'll organise that all for you. But if you want to change things, we're here to listen and adapt that for you. So ultimately, we've got all the ideas without having, before you even speak to us, you're probably thinking, where do I want to go? What itinerary? And you probably want to book 5 different holidays. But we get to understand you as well, and really make sure that each adventure you go on is right for you as well.
So we've talked about this in terms of the business side of the trip to Sri Lanka, the networking retreat Sri Lanka. But what struck me is that you're not just about booking things over there. You've actually got relationships with the people running these businesses over there, the relationships with the hotels and the people who organise trips and that sort of thing. You go and form those relationships so that you really know what you're selling to your clients, rather than just booking it from a catalogue, I guess.
Exactly. My belief and our belief in ARC is ultimately the better relationship that we have with the people, and all the relationships that we've built that are operating our tours, is the better experience our customers are going to have. And everybody that we work with are all about, when we speak to them, like, and people I've spoken to know how passionate we are about, like, sustainability, just as an example. And when we speak to the people that we've now got these partnerships with, that's one of the topics that we talk about. And if they don't necessarily have the right ethos, or we don't feel like we're the right fit for each other, we won't just use somebody just for the hell or for the convenience of just having a booking or having an itinerary for that destination. We'll make sure that the relationship that we've got is a good, strong relationship, so we can guarantee, or all but guarantee, that when you're on the ground, we know you're going to be looked after. And if there were any issues, which, just an example of, this was a booking that went to Sri Lanka pre-pandemic, a few years ago. It was on Christmas Eve. Our ground team called me up and said, "Oh, your passenger's not arrived. We're not sure what's happened." And within about 5 minutes, I'd worked out that their flight wasn't able. They were on connecting flights with via Dubai, and there was a big thick fog came in, and they couldn't get the connecting flight, so they landed, and then they were stuck there for the night. So with that communication, I managed to work out that get them onto alternative flights so they could go the next day, and then the itinerary was all just shifted around nice and quickly to make sure that they still got all the excitement and adventure that was already packed into that itinerary, and they didn't actually miss out on anything. And ultimately, it's very difficult to get that if you don't have a direct relationship with your team that run these holidays.
And I guess that's the benefit of having someone like you in the background. Then, so things happen, don't they? With international travel, things happen like fog, as you've just mentioned. But having someone like you there in the background means that I guess you get to panic on your client's behalf. They don't have to panic because you do all of that in the background and sort it out for them.
Exactly, and a panic is a good word, but obviously, when customers do have an issue and they call us, we know the first places that we need to, or we kind of know the process that we need to do to, and can provide that advice to the customer as well to ensure that they're looked after on the ground. Because the first thing, obviously, what you do if there was an issue, you panic straight away, and I totally understand that. It's one of the most stressful things to do. Whilst you're in a destination, you're absolutely fine. But obviously, the traveling side of things, that can be a really stressful experience, and you want to know that that's going to run smoothly. So if there are any issues like flight delays, or you need to get on a alternative flight for any reason, we're very obviously, that's where our knowledge comes in, and we sort that out for our customers or give them the best advice. If it is something we couldn't help with in the immediate and in that time, we just give them the advice that helps them sort it out, so they're much more relaxed and just enjoy their holiday.
Well, you've got the most calming manner and calming voice. I think if I was having a crisis on holiday, I would definitely want you in the background because your manner with everything just makes everything feel as if it's not a panic, Kriss. And that's one of the things I like about you. I'm going to do this again. If you're not already connected with Kriss, Kriss Saunders, go and find him on LinkedIn and connect with him. It's really worth doing. He really knows his stuff about travel and adventure travel and long haul and Sri Lanka and all sorts of other things as well. One of the things that you've mentioned, Kriss, is the sustainability side of things, which I always think is an interesting word to use in travel. What does that mean for you when you're organising travel, when you're looking at destinations to put people? What do you mean when you talk about sustainability?
So sustainability, it means something different to everybody, and it's just using the term sustainability is not an easy term just to use and know exactly what it means. But there are elements that we can do and that we implement into the tours that we put together to effectively make them as green as possible and have the smallest impact. Just as an example, when we first visited Sri Lanka, our partners out there used to provide 500 milliliter bottles of bottles of water. I'm like a camel that's just seen water for the first time in a year, and I would just guzzle bottle after bottle. So you think, if you're drinking, just to say, for four passengers or for a family of four are all drinking 5 bottles of plastic bottles a day, you start escalating that into a trip of a week, 2 weeks, you're going to be using well over 100, 200 plastic bottles. So we're like, guys, you need to sort this out. This is terrible. It's not good for the environment where you are, and it doesn't actually reflect well on the tours when people consider how much wastage they're producing. So we've taken that out of the control of the customers, and we provide a water source a fresh water source where they can just fill up their own bottles. So you think, once you calculate that into hundreds of tours, you're saving tons of plastic from something just that small that can make that much of an impact. And that's just one example. Something we're working on at the moment is an offsetting program. A lot of people use offsetting websites and plant trees, but we want to go a step further and actually work towards having our tours carbon neutral, which is something, it might sound ridiculous, because once you just consider your flights and how much offsetting there is to do, but that's what we're working on. There's a lot of scientific work going on in the background to make that happen, but to make us sustainable. And actually, everyone's becoming more conscious. There's been a lot of, the pandemic just showed how much of a difference it made. You took all the impacts away. You took away obviously the airline industry. You took away all the human impacts of being in destinations like dolphins were swimming around Venice for the first time in as long as anybody remembered. You could see clear waters, and the earth was almost like breathing a sigh of relief. So it just shows that these things, if we put these things in place, that a little bit of the difference that we can make, the bigger the impact we can create, does actually make a huge difference. It's where a lot of people never really believed that before, just seeing the world map when all the emissions just disappeared for months on end, which is remarkable to see.
I think it's almost what's the word I'm looking for? A sort of real life view that people are going to travel, people are going to go on holiday as long as they're able to, and that is therefore going to affect the environment. So you're trying to do whatever you can to mitigate that at the other end. I guess that sounds like a common sense approach to it. If you've just joined us, because I've just spotted that a number of people have just joined us, if you've got any questions about travel, or if you just want to say hello, pop them in the comments below, and we'll bring it up on screen as I've been doing with other people's comments. If people want to work with you, Kriss, if people want to talk to you about a holiday of a lifetime, or start to think about booking something for their organisation, or start to think about regular stuff, because I know you work with the wonderful Julia Doherty and who has very regular travel arrangements for her business, what's the best way of people finding you and getting hold of you?
So obviously people can get hold of us in any way that they would like. Obviously I get people message me on LinkedIn. We got my people give us a call, people email, people contact through the website. Honestly, if you're watching this now and you want to connect, even if you're passionate about sustainability, all of those things, I'm just open for all these conversations. So just connect. And obviously with the website going live, check out ARCA Origins. Keep an eye on it for when it goes live, and you'll be able to get in touch with us through there as well.
I just put your email address up on screen so that people can see that as well. Let's say morning to Stephen Lai. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. It's good to see you. Talking to Kriss Saunders about travel and the business of travel. Something that you and I have talked about, Kriss, about people actually getting into the business of travel themselves. Is that something that you're able to help people with as well, if they're interested either of getting into business in travel, or they're already in business in travel and would prefer to do so for themselves? Are you able to help people out in that respect as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a story of how we originally got into travel, and our story at the first couple of years of our business wasn't necessarily a good story, and it was a really frustrating. We were promised a lot of things by joining a franchise, and they didn't deliver, which was really, it was gutting for us. You spend a lot of money and you don't actually get what you pay for. And the difference we've made, we moved away from that and actually became an independent tour operator, which is why we were able to do everything that we want, well, that we can do now. And we've formed all these relationships, which wouldn't have been possible before before we went independent. And all of these lessons that we've learned, we've put a package together where people who really are passionate about travel. They've got a niche or they've got an area that they really want to work in, whether they could be a photographer that wants to run photography tours, or wildlife, something that people are really passionate about. And if people wanted to get into travel and work with us, we would run them as an operator as well. So they ultimately put together their own niche tours, and what they're then selling is they can be really passionate about and build a really incredible business in partnership with us as well. So yeah, there's lots of ways people can work with us, and if anybody's got ideas, we're really open and transparent and want to ultimately get more people involved and loving all the adventures that are out there.
Well, the idea that I've had, as you know, is that we need to, at some point, join up my UK audience and my Australian audience, and Sri Lanka seemed like the obvious opportunity to do that, because I work with a ton of people in the UK and some people in Oz as well. So that was the thinking behind that, and I know we've joined up in a loose partnership to deliver that. As you say, there are photographers as well, and all sorts of. I know you help out someone who does walk-in tours as well, and that sort of thing. You're open to ideas to work with people on that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously the fit when it came to working with Julia, as you mentioned. She had a whole set of requirements that she needs to, one, put her mind at rest with what she's offering, and obviously, it took a while. These relationships take a while to build, but now we've got an absolutely brilliant working relationship where I know what she wants, she knows what I'm going to deliver for her, and ultimately I'm helping her in the background with the tours running smoothly, which has been, that's been a really fun and interesting relationship so far, and I'm looking forward to building on that with Julia. But ultimately, that is really good fun, and if there's more people that run their own trips, or whether it's diving clubs that want their dive trips planned, I can work with them on those, or surfing trips. Like Sri Lanka, just as a destination, is a hotspot for surfing, diving, culinary, culture. There's so many different things. That's just Sri Lanka, but we offer so many experiences, and we can work with so many different businesses. Anybody that's we've whetted the appetite for, we're really keen to work with people, whether it's direct to the customers, or if there's businesses that are thinking, actually, I would like to put this on, or we need some help. That's what we're here for. That's what we do.
We're going to be here for probably 5 minutes or so longer. So if anyone's got any questions about travel or anything like that, do pop them in the comments, and I'll bring them up. But every day on the news, Kriss, we're seeing something about travel, and whether that's airlines having to cancel, that's a thing that's happening at the moment. If people are worried about booking travel for the forthcoming season, the sort of autumn winter season, is there any advice that you would give to people who are worried about doing the best to make sure their holiday goes ahead, for example?
There's a lot of the issues that are coming about are really out of the control of the consumer. In fairness, like obviously airlines cancelling flights, it's not just affecting one airline. There are airlines that are doing better than others, but ultimately the best thing you can do is make sure that your package is protected, which means don't just book your flight, book accommodation, book everything separately, because if your package isn't protected, say by a travel professional, either us or someone else, where we put the insurances in place to protect our clients. So when these things do happen, they are fully protected, and if they need an alternative flight, and that's what the ATOL protection is there for, we help the customers get the alternative routes. If, like, for example, like accommodation, if somebody books their own accommodation, flights, everything separately, if the accommodation is past a refundable rate, say, or the date that becomes refundable, you lose your money, and that's the biggest mistake that a lot of people make. So in order, especially it is quite a difficult environment for travel at the moment, but people can get away, still have an incredible time. It's just making sure that you're be prepared for something to change, but make sure you're protected and get the right travel insurance as well to protect you. It is actually, a lot of people don't realise it is a legal requirement to have travel insurance. But ultimately, I don't. If anything happens if your flights get cancelled or something like that, your travel insurance is there to protect you as well. So, and you don't want to be left high and dry if something happened when you're away as well. So there's a lot of ways, and it's very easy to protect yourself. But ultimately, the best way is to book through a licensed professional like ourselves.
Right, because I think the internet might have led a lot of people to believe that they can do all of this themselves, and I guess some of the time people can, and they may think they're saving money on doing that, but it's when you actually need the support in the background, and when you, because I don't, as a consumer, I don't particularly understand what ATOL does and what ABTA does and what the difference is between the two of them. For example, I know that I always take out travel insurance as well, but yeah, actually working with someone like you can take a lot of these headaches away, I guess, for people, or at least if the headache occurs, you can help make it as best as possible for people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. If you book through a travel professional, that's what they're there to hold your hand through that whole experience from start to finish. So any hurdle that you do come across, you're helped over that hurdle. I've heard of other people, other fellow professionals, where they went from they had clients that booked flights, were so nervous about them not going ahead, booked chartered their own flight. I know not everyone's obviously in a position to do that, but then the chartered airport weren't able to then deal with that flight. So then that chartered plane needed moving to another airport. But again, that was only possible through booking through a professional. If you did that yourself, you could have quite easily ended up losing a lot of money. And ultimately, you just don't want to do that. It's not. The pandemic has showed that where the issues are and what can happen, and actually it's kind of shown that you need somebody to, or you need to make sure that you're protected, because if say when the pandemic hit, if you did say you booked things and yourself and you didn't protect yourself, you would have lost out on that holiday ultimately, where people who have booked have been protected of. You see the stories of people 2 years later finally going on their holiday that they booked back in, say, 2019, but they would have lost that if they didn't get the right protection in place.
Yeah, at least they're going. I think that's the thing. Have you got any final comments before I say goodbye and good morning to everyone who's kindly joined us this morning?
Yeah, no, obviously, thank you for everybody that has tuned in and watched. And like I say, just the best advice I can give to everybody is just look at the advice for where you travel and make sure, whether you do it yourself, through someone else or through us, make sure that you've got everything in place so your booking can run as smoothly as possible. So, but thank you.
I always enjoy talking to you, Kriss. Thanks for coming along this morning. If anyone's watching this on replay, then still carry on and put your comments. I'll tag Kriss and make sure he sees them if you've got any questions about travel as well. And if you're not following Kriss, that's where to find him, on LinkedIn. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be back with Mike Freddie Gordon and Penny Raby. yeah, not quite sure what time we're doing that tomorrow, but we will be here live. We're going to go and visit them in their offices and talk about all things marriage and relationship related. Thank you for joining us and spending some time with us this morning. Thanks again.